This is one of the most important features for this entire set of notes because, again, you know that you're going to be creating functions that deal with lists. We're going to be using the dreaded cuss word recursion too, so just heads up on that. You know it's coming. Well, here it comes. And then remember, when we're doing recursion, we know that we're going to be doing things bit by bit. And this table right here, the real work may not be really done until we finally hit the base case. And in that base case, we really have to plan out what do we want it to do when we reach the end of a list, the end of a value, or something of that nature. Because remember, there's many commands that we've already gone over, like cons and append, that are expecting a list or a number, or if we're doing something like addition. In this one, we have one part of the addition. How do we get the other part of the addition? What happens when we reach a length that has nothing left to it? We need to return a 0. So there's a bunch of different things that we have to identify. I shouldn't say a bunch. There's really two big categories that we have to identify. Number one, identify what the function should return. That should really be in the description that we give you to tell you, hey, this function returns a new list, or it returns a true and false, or blah, 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 blah. So that's the first thing that you need to really identify. The second one is your base cases. You need to identify at least two cases. The first case is the null cases. When it is done, when the stack is climbed all the way up and has no more data to read in from a list, what do you want it to do? You've got to remember that whatever commands we have in there, it needs to return a value that's going to be able to be collected and used for cons, for append, or for the plus sign, something of that nature. The other part is the else case. And that's what do you want it to partially return. And here's why this graph is important. In most, and this is a very simple length function, in almost all of your functions, especially using recursion, you're going to have a part of a call that is done and then a part of a call, a recursive call that's going to be calling the function again, but giving it some other data that's highlighted in green here. So how are you going to do that is our stack, call stack, and value stack that we've just gone over and that you've seen before in other classes. We have to design this out. So when I start showing you some solutions and items like that, you're going to start seeing me do this because, again, I'm trying to hammer home here on it takes a while to design it first before you can really code it. Sure, there's going to be some things you're going to be able to code right off the bat, but the overall internal design of it, you have to at least game plan it out. And I know a lot of us are good at that. But just remember that in your construction of your overall function, you're going to have a finished portion that you say, okay, I've gotten here, but that's only part of the answer. And then you're going to have a recursive passing list portion or mostly list portion. But anyway, that's going to be part of the problem. So think of this as a two-step process here that we have for +1 and the length of the coder, that eventually when everything gets done, we're going to be able to say that right-hand side is finally going to return us a 0. And 1 plus 0 is 1, as you well know. And then the stack starts to go ahead and crumble from there, adding 1 each time to our value. Also, just a little thing off the top of my head here. Whenever we have some type of addition, remember, adding 0 to an addition doesn't hurt the addition because you're not adding anything to it. So use that to your advantage. If you happen to be calculating or adding things, summations, counting how many items are in a list like this, adding 0 is not a bad item. Think of also is that in a list, adding an empty list to another list doesn't hurt the original list. So think about those two options as you worry about your null case because they'll pop up quite often.